You may ask, how did the world get to this point? Let's find out. Ever since the time period of the 1870s, countries have been competing for valuable territories and resources in order to accumulate wealth through industrialization. This desire to occupy other territories was stimulated by the idea of social Darwinism, which stated that the country that's the fittest and has the most amount of resources and territories will prevail and exercise dominance over others.
Additionally, nationalism played a major role in new imperialism during this time period, as each country believed that they were superior, leading to major conflict. Ultimately, the new development in technology as well as the larger abundance of weapons as a result of the Industrial Revolution led to increased tensions between countries and ultimately led to World War I. Ultimately, after both World War I and World War II, decolonization movements occurred in Africa and Asia that reversed some events occurring during the era of new imperialism. In 1876, the King of Belgium, Leopold II, established control over the Congo in Africa through carefully doctored treaties and an advanced army that pretty much put him in power. The natives were forced to work under atrocious conditions, and up to 50% of the Congolese population was decimated. This sly move made by the Belgian king sparked what would become the scramble for Africa in the space of a few years. In the mid-1870s, Great Britain established its influence on the Suez Canal after Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli bought Egypt's share on the waterway for £4 million. However, in 1882, Great Britain took over Egypt, showcasing a clear imperial endeavor by the British. The canal proved to be vastly important to British imperialism, since travel time to the Indian Ocean was almost cut in half.
Man, this is the way to live.
After Japan was exposed to the advancements and innovations of industrialization, it rapidly modernized and industrialized during the Meiji Restoration. Japan began to rise as a world power, and in the 1870s, the independent islands such as Okinawa were taken and trade treaties were imposed on Korea. Soon, the Japanese dominated the entirety of Asia with its superior navy and army. So, hey everybody.
Hello.
I'm Otto von Bismarck, as you guys would know. And yeah, we gotta do something about Africa. Too much tension in the world. Yeah, so, guys want anything?
So I will take some of the southern African territories as well as Egypt.
Sounds good.
Alright, cool.
As long as I get the Congo, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Speaking for Germany, imperialism is too much for us, We just became a state and all that. Yes, can't handle it.
When noticing that countries, especially Britain, were being very vicious and were trying to take the most amount of territories possible before others could acquire them, Otto von Bismarck decided to make the Berlin Conference. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885 was a meeting between European nations to create rules on how to peacefully divide Africa among them for colonization. This conference was convened by Portugal, despite being led by Otto von Bismarck.
This conference ushered in a period of heightened colonial activity by European powers, eliminating most existing forms of African self-governance. For Africans, colonialism was introduced across nearly all the continent. However, when African independence was gained after World War II, it was in the form of fragmented states.
After the death of the person who put Bismarck into power, William II believed Bismarck created two major problems for Germany, and therefore believed that he should rule. Kaiser II believed that Bismarck's system of alliances were too complicated and needed to be simplified. Additionally, he also believed that Russia was a dangerous threat to Germany, and a treaty with Russia would be a bad idea. After Bismarck was released from his position and Kaiser II took over, he implemented policies, including creating a high seas fleet and increased spending on new equipment. This resulted in the Berlin Conference being ineffective and led to increased tensions between nations.
In the 1890s, Italy decided to join in the scramble for Africa, and they began by sending thousands of troops to the African nation of Ethiopia. Tensions over the Treaty of Wickhale, an agreement promoting friendship and cooperation between the two nations, eventually led to the conflict between them. During this first Italo-Ethiopian War, Ethiopia, led by Emperor Menelik II, devised a strategy of guerrilla warfare to combat the Italians, where he knew that full frontal assault would result in deadly consequences. The Ethiopians managed to slowly drive the Italians out of Ethiopia, and after defeating them in the Battle of Adua in 1896, Italy accepted Ethiopian independence.
As the new age of imperialism continued, conflicts began to escalate in severity. With limited available land in Africa, fighting became more prevalent in the overseas colonies over the control of land. One of the biggest conflicts, the Boer War, began on October 12, 1899. Previously, Dutch settlers, called the Boers, claimed part of South Africa as their territory for its resources and strategic location. In 1899, the British also moved troops to the Boer territory and refused to leave. Subsequently, the Boers declared war on the British. Previously, the Boers revolted successfully against the British and against a raid organized by Cecil Rhodes. Later, as the war began, England sent large amounts of troops to the area to overwhelm the Boers, who were successful with their guerrilla tactics in the earlier part of this war. However, it was the use of concentration camps by the British that led to the end of the war. The camps killed 26,000 individuals. As a result, the war ended in 1902 as the Boers gave up in order to negotiate peace with the British. As tensions in the African colonies began to become more prevalent, similarly, problems concerning imperial acquisitions began to cause major conflicts in Asia. At the turn of the century, around the year 1900, the Boxer Rebellion took place. A secret Chinese organization called the Society of the Righteous and Harmonious Fists led an uprising in northern China against the spread of Western and Japanese culture, resulting from foreign imperial conquest. Named as the Boxers by Westerners, the Chinese rebels would perform physical exercises they believed would make themselves invincible. The Boxers murdered foreigners and Christians and destroyed foreign property. In order to quell the destruction, European powers sent 20,000 troops to China to rescue foreigners and end the rebellion. The Faux Revolution ended with the Boxer Protocol in 1901, forcing China to pay reparations and implementing punishments. Subsequently, imperialism was a leading cause for the start of World War I. Along with the colonization of foreign territories, nationalism was beginning to emerge as the most influential driving force in Europe. As countries competed to expand their empires, alliances and hostilities began to grow out of the imperial turmoil. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated at Sarajevo. With the murder of their upcoming ruler, Austria-Hungary became enraged. As a result of imperialism, alliances had formed between Austria-Hungary, Germany, and Italy. Subsequently, rivalries were just as strong as these alliances. The hostility toward each other from conflicts arising from colonization set the stage for the Triple Alliance mentioned earlier to start the war against the other European powers. Again, the war was not only for revenge, but also out of imperial greed. The powers of the Triple Alliance wished to expand their empires in closer distances. After a gruesome war, the Central Powers lost. Shortly after, another world war was fought by major powers, Germany and Japan, in order to expand their empires as well. Following their defeat, imperialism and colonialism began to take a backwards path. Since the age of new imperialism and the scramble for Africa began, colonies wanted to separate and gain independence from their home empires. With the emergence of both world wars, colonial bodies' rebellions became more successful as home countries did not have sufficient resources to put these rebellions down. Subsequently, many colonies began to become independent and set the stage for global decolonization. In 1947, India, one of the world's largest overseas colonies, became independent of Britain rule. Over the 20th century, most to all African colonies became independent. Still to this day, colonies are beginning their independence and decolonization is taking place, ending the age of imperialism in the modern world.